Financially raw, real, authentic wisdom with Lawrence Oberholzer from Retire Rich and Happy.
Okay, so Mr. Venter, we spoke about short-term insurance for the last couple of weeks. You're now going to go into a few of the more obscure things that are on your short-term insurance policies, like we're going to go and claim for a hole-in-one after today. Okay, so share with us what you've got.
Lawrence, let's start off with the whole concept of liability. Now, to understand what and who is covered under liability, we have to take a couple of steps back and understand our discussion concerning parties to an insurance contract. Now, not going into the whole policy owner and who's the payer and so forth, there's two very important concepts we have to understand, mainly being who is the insured and who is the co-insured. So the insured would be the person in whose name the policy is, you for instance. A co-insured is usually somebody who's automatically included in the policy. For instance, your wife and your underage children.
Okay.
So those people are automatically included on your policy. That's why your household contents, for instance, you're not insuring just your stuff, you're insuring your wife and kids' clothes and toys and bicycles and all of those things automatically. Also, our conversation about insurable interest. Guys, go back and listen to the previous shows. It's very, very important information. Insurable interest. You have an insurable interest in your children's laptops and bicycles and so on and so forth.
Yeah. So just to refresh, insurable interest is you have to have suffer the financial loss to be able to insure something. To
Correct.
have an insurable interest in something.
Correct. So when it gets to liability, what we're looking at, and our discussion concerning third-party insurance on vehicles is an extension of your liability cover. But liability cover is also attached to your household contents and to your building more specifically. So liability cover would cover any time a person suffers injury or loss because of an item you own, for which you are responsible. So I come and visit you, there is a splash of water on the floor, I slip and I break my leg. I can potentially hold you legally responsible for it, for my medical bills, pain and suffering, all of those things attached. So liability cover on your short-term insurance cover policy would cover those types of eventualities. It would also cover, for instance, me visiting you and the roof collapsing, and myself or items in my care or your care which belong to me gets damaged. Again, liability would cover those things. So are you liable for the financial loss that a third party, somebody else, suffered?
Okay. So if I bring my laptop to your place and we work on it and then we go and have a braai and we get robbed, would that be part, or would that more be covered under my specified all risk? If I don't have it specified, would I be able to claim from you?
Another important term we have to understand is the concept of not being insured elsewhere. For instance, your laptop. If your laptop is insured on your policy, either under the household contents section or under the all risk section, and you bring it to my house, then you already have cover for that eventuality.
So you already accept the responsibility if something happens.
Correct. If, however, your laptop or your TV or your projector or whatever you bring to my house gets damaged or stolen, and you do not have any cover for it anywhere else, then you can hold me liable for it because I was the person in whose care that item was.
Okay.
And thus I can claim under my liability insurance for your loss.
Okay, and maybe just at this point, because we talk about not being insured elsewhere, talk a little bit, or tell people a little bit about how it works when you do have double insurance. Because it sometimes happens. People forget to cancel one, they take out insurance from another company, and then they get into an accident or something. How does that usually work?
Again, there's a difference in having double insurance between the short-term insurance structure and your long-term insurance structure. Just a quick recap on long-term insurance. When we're referring to long-term insurance, we're talking about life cover, disability, and all of those things. With those types of policies, you can have life cover at more than one company. You can have funeral cover at more than one company, and all of those companies would pay out in the event of an insured event. Short-term insurance and medical aids work completely differently. You can only insure an item at one insurance company and claim from that one insurance company. The reason for this is a term we call enrichment. Remember, we've spoken previously saying that the goal of insurance, or the purpose of insurance, is to put you in the same position you were before the loss.
Yes.
So if you insure your laptop or your car at two different insurance companies, then you are enriching yourself by claiming at both companies. You are now in a better position. And that has serious legal ramifications.
Yeah.
They can sue you for that. So what would happen if it's discovered that an item is doubly insured? Is that both insurance companies would be responsible for half of the loss. So insurance company 1 would pay out 50% of your laptop, insurance company number 2 would pay out 50% of your laptop. What they also do is insurance company 1, where the item was first insured, would pay out the claim, and insurance company number 2 would have to refund a portion of your premiums in order to make certain that you are not in a better situation.
Yeah, so you're back to where you were.
Correct.
All right. Okay, so that's with double insurance. So if you do realize that you are double insured, you are not going to go to jail immediately. Pass go, not collect 200 Rand and just go to jail. Yeah, there will be a negotiation between the two insurance companies, and each will be liable for half of it.
Correct.
And you'll get some refund on your premiums as well.
Remember, short-term insurance is not a savings product.
Yeah. So a few people do use it as a savings plan. They put some money into their short-term insurance premiums, and then once a year they claim all of that back. So yeah, that's also that's not how short-term insurance is supposed to work. All right. So guys, again, if you have any questions, you are welcome to give us a shout out online. We are here to answer all those questions. And then, you're welcome to follow us on Facebook, Retire Happy, Instagram, I Retire Happy, and then also YouTube, Retire Happy. Okay, so that's liability insurance.
That is liability in a nutshell. Remember, liability being any time you are financially liable for the loss of injury of a third party, be that because of your negligence or because of omittance or an accident.
Okay.
So under your vehicle, under your household contents or building section.
Okay.
Very important again, it's not only cover for yourself but also for your co-insureds. So if your wife drives the vehicle in an accident and it is found to be her fault, liability would cover it, your third party insurance.
Okay.
If your son is busy riding his bicycle, he hits one of your guests while you're standing next to the bride, that guest is injured, again, it's covered under the liability section.
Okay. All right. Next
is Sasria.
Sasria, yeah, this is an interesting one because we've all seen what happens with riots and those kind of things a month or so ago. So yeah, let's talk about Sasria.
Sasria is an abbreviation for the South African Special Risks Insurance Institute. So what's important to remember here is under your standard policy wording, there is a pertinent exclusion for any type of riot or strike. So your standard insurance contract will not cover you should your house be damaged during a riot or a strike, should your vehicle be damaged during a riot or a strike, or any item you have insured. Very, very important to remember. You can only claim from Sasria for an item that's already insured on a short-term insurance policy. So if your household contents or building is not insured, then you do not have Sasria cover. You have to insure the item first, and by virtue of that, a portion of the premium you pay is allocated towards Sasria.
Okay, so you can't phone up because of what's happened in South Africa. You can't phone up the insurance company and say, listen, I just want to take out a policy for Sasria.
Unfortunately not.
Yeah. So,
In South Africa also, whenever you take out household contents or building insurance, Sasria is automatically included. Some insurance companies also automatically include it for when you take out the vehicle, but confirm this with your insurance company. So let's get to what is a special risk. We've alluded to it, riots and strikes. A couple of months ago, South Africa went through this bad patch where people were running around, throwing rocks, looting vehicles, looting shopping centres. Those things are not covered by your standard insurance. It's covered by Sasria. Sasria is an insurance arm of the government, so it's administered by the government. It actually belongs to them, but it's a separate part which is registered as an insurance company. So how do you claim from Sasria then? The process is usually rather seamless. You would institute a claim through your insurance company, and they would handle the claim on your behalf with Sasria. So you do not have to now all of a sudden phone up a separate company and go through a separate, different claims process. Your insurance company and your financial advisor facilitates this whole process for you to make life much easier. So if you're involved in rioting, if you're involved in a strike and an item gets damaged or stolen or lost, that's where you would be able to claim from. Very, 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 very important. It only covers you if you are not a party to the riot or the strike.
So if you're busy rioting and somebody else throws a stone and it misses whoever they aimed it at and hits your car, you don't have a claim.
Correct. The same thing applies to using something in your possession in the act of a crime. If you, for instance, use your vehicle to rob a bank and now you're fleeing the police,
get into an accident,
it's not covered by your insurance. It's not covered by Sasria. It's not covered at all.
Yeah. So when does it actually become a riot? Or does normal protest action and those kind of things also fall under Sasria? So, I mean, we've all seen the riots and the mass destruction and everything. But if you drive past an informal settlement and they are busy with a protest action and there's rocks in the road and you hit one and your car gets damaged, does that also fall under Sasria, or does it have to be a certain scale of riot or something before it goes over to Sasria?
It's very difficult to determine, and that's why it's handled by the insurance company, because there's two layers to this whole concept of an item you own or an item in your care being damaged. The first one would be malicious damage. So malicious damage is defined as somebody who on purpose damages your vehicle, for instance. Let's stick with vehicle, it's easier to understand.
Yeah.
So your
ex-girlfriend keys your car
or throws a rock at your car, whatever the case might be.
Yeah.
That would be considered malicious damage. So somebody who purposefully damaged your vehicle. The same thing applies to driving past an informal settlement, driving on the highway, and somebody just throws a rock at your car.
Yes.
Which is also unfortunately a reality. We get a lot of cases where people drive past bridges and somebody just drops something from the bridge. Either with the intention of a hijacking or just to damage and destroy property.
Yes.
So the scale of a riot is any time it's defined as this is a strike, these are people rioting, these are people in the process of protesting some or other event. So usually if there is a group of people, it would be deemed a event that's covered by Sasria instead of malicious damage. Again, you approach your insurance company, they look at it, look at your insurance contract, deem whether it's malicious damage or not. If it's not malicious damage, they then refer it to Sasria and you're covered in that eventuality.
Okay, the last thing before we go on to your music break, when you do claim from Sasria, so you are in a riot, your car gets set ablaze or set alight and it burns out, so it's a total loss. are you guaranteed that a claim through Sasria will give you a full payout? Or can the insurance company say, well, Sasria didn't have enough money, so they're only paying 50% of all claims, so there you go, your car's worth 400,000, sorry, we only pay 200,000. Or does the insurance company cover the difference? There's a couple of questions in there, let me try and specify. So the first one is, will Sasria pay 100% of the claim? That's the first thing. The second thing is, if they don't, will the insurance company actually top up that claim if it gets to that?
Your contract with Sasria is an extension of your insurance contract. So as long as it's an insured event, it's something that is covered, they are obliged to cover you for your financial loss.
Total loss.
For your actual financial loss. Remember, we pointed out that Sasria is in itself a registered financial services provider. It's an insurance company. So they also make use of reinsurers. That means the chance of them not having money, rather slim. That said, we do stay in South Africa, so...
And it is still a state-owned enterprise.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct, unfortunately. So, depending on how your insurance company works and how it operates, it can follow one of two routes. Number one, it can say, we will pay your claim and claim back from Sasria. So that in that event, your insurance company is actually the person paying, and they just claim it back from Sasria.
Yes.
Option number two, and this happens with smaller insurance companies would refer the claim directly to Sasria, and then you have to wait.
Because Sasria pays them so that they can pay you.
Totally correct.
Okay.
Unfortunately, this process takes very, very long. It is still a bureaucracy.
Yeah.
That needs to happen.
Yeah, so you actually hope that you don't get into that situation. So that's one of the benefits of having a bigger, more reputable insurance company than a smaller cheapie.
Correct. Last thing we have to touch on there is the whole idea of a government saying that this is a state of disaster. Because that is the final layer in having cover for these types of things. A state of disaster would be massive floods, for instance, a war, civil unrest in a very large scale.
Okay.
If a government declares a state of disaster, then the insurance company will not pay your claim, Sasria will not pay your claim, you have to claim directly through the government, and they will then reimburse you for any losses suffered.
Yeah, that can take a while.
Yes, it does.
I think your grandchildren's grandchildren might have a claim. Warren sent through a question, so I'm going to read the question and then Japie's going to answer it. He says, hi Lawrence and Japie, great show. Just wanted to ask a question about insurance. I saw an accident on Tuesday evening where drunk people hit a pole and then called a sober person to wait for the tow vehicle and left the scene. Naughty. I have all the details. How should I go about reporting this, as it is insurance fraud and one of the reasons we all pay such high premiums? And before I get you to feel that it is, Warren is 100% correct. The fact that these kind of things are happening and we all sort of accept it, like, it's just what happens, we all just do it, is why insurance premiums are high, because insurance companies have to look at all their claims and calculate through the actuaries how much they have to charge to make a profit. So if we have less insurance fraud, we all will pay less on insurance premiums. So Japie, your comments and answer on that question.
Warren, thanks very, very much for the question. There's a couple of points we have to touch on here. First off, a short answer to your question would be all insurance companies do have fraud or tip-off lines. You can contact them directly and give the information through to them. You can do this anonymously, so you would not be in a situation where your name is now all of a sudden all over the newspapers and so forth. But that raises another question. It would depend on what information you do have, because you can't just phone up an insurance company and say, listen, there was an accident roughly this date at that time, one of the people could be insured with you.
Yeah.
So yes, by all means, if you have the insurance details of the people involved in fraud, make use of the insurance company's tip-off lines. If you go to their websites, it's usually displayed on there. Or contact your financial advisor. They'll be able to guide you in the right direction. But that brings us to another problem that happens in insurance a lot of times. And it also has to do with law in South Africa and worldwide. You as a lay person cannot prove that person was drunk. To extrapolate on your
specific case
example that you mentioned. Unless you are a medical professional who did a blood test, or the person was potentially standing with a drink in their hand while the accident occurred, it's very difficult for you to prove that person was actually under the influence. There's a lot of medications, there's a lot of medical problems that people suffer with, which cause them to seem drunk. So be very, very careful of accusing somebody of being drunk, because it could lead to slander. And you could then be liable for any potential loss that person suffered.
In your personal capacity.
That brings us to the last topic I want to discuss concerning the whole concept of vehicle accidents. In our previous show...
quickly before we go there, so in this case, basically what you would say is, if you know which insurance company the person was insured with or is insured with, send an anonymous tip, phone them, whatever, tell them that this happened and walk away.
Correct.
Don't get too involved, don't go and find out if anything happened, just do your duty and walk away, because the moment when you do state that it seemed like they might have been under the influence, don't say they were under the influence, and don't get too involved, because you don't want to open yourself up for any personal claims or anything like that.
That would be the correct approach. If you do not have the insurance details, you can also approach the SAPS with the time and date of the accident.
The one in that area, basically.
Correct. Where the accident would have been reported, and then tell them about it, open a case, or give them the necessary information. Try to find out who's the investigating officer and have a chat to that person.
Yes. And then you let them, the law run its course.
Correct.
Don't get too involved.
It's not your job to run around trying to persecute or prosecute people. We have institutions for that. Your job is to provide the relevant authorities with the relevant information. That said, just a very last quick thing about claims. In our last show, we discussed how to claim if you're in a vehicle accident. They'll run through a checklist, all of those types of things. Guys, for the reasons I mentioned previously, never tell your insurance company that the other party was drunk. Again, you cannot prove this. The other party, also don't say the other party was busy on their cell phones. Again, it's very, very difficult to prove that this person was, or the accident was caused by this person being on their cell phone. The big reason you should not do this is, or make allegations, is because that person's insurance company can repudiate the claim, because that third party was in breach of the insurance contract. So this has effect on you in two ways. If you are insured, then if the third party's insurance company repudiates the claim, you will not be able to claim the loss back from them, thus reinstating your no claim bonus and recovering your excess. If you are not insured and you make these accusations and the third party's insurance company repudiates the claim, they will repudiate the damage to your vehicle as well, because they repudiate not just the insured's claim, they repudiate the claim in total. This would mean you're now tied up in legal battles in order to get your vehicle fixed.
Yes, sure. Yeah, that's way too much effort. So Warren says, so Warren says, in this case, we have our estate security guards, body cam footage of the clearly intoxicated people. We will approach the SAPS, thanks guys, because these guys knocked out our power for 2 days. Yeah, I think, Warren, you've got exactly the right approach the SAPS, give them the information you have, open a case if you have to, and then let them run with it. Let the law take its course from there. I do feel people need to be held accountable, so yes, don't just ignore it, go and report it, but then let the law take its course.
Remember also, guys, we just had a chat about liability. The person that was involved in the accident and knocked out the power to a complex or to a estate for a couple of days, that person is liable not only to the damage caused by the accident, so the electricity pole or electricity box or whatever they hit, but also potential losses suffered by people
in the estate.
So if now for 2 days you did not have any electricity, your
meat and everything,
food in the fridge was spoiled, then you have a claim against that third party because you suffered a financial loss.
Yeah. So that might be something that you want to discuss with the body corporate, because they might be able to find out how much or what losses there were, and as a body corporate then put a claim in against those people. Yeah. So there's definitely some recourse for you guys there. So it's something that you have to keep in mind. Okay.
Right. Then we can move over to some of the general things on insurance. In general, how to go about minimizing premiums, understanding what you're paying for, and also have a quick chat about some of the more obscure type of cover, that hidden things that you don't always know about. First off, we had a chat previously about pro rata premiums, but I'd just like to recap that for people so they can understand what happens when you add or remove an item from your short-term insurance premium, or from your short-term insurance policy.
Yes.
When you add an item to your policy, there is a effective date. So you add an item from the date you phoned up the insurance company or your financial advisor and said, I want this item covered now. Remember that short-term insurance is a month-to-month contract, like all insurance contracts. So you now need to pay for a portion of the month in which you were insured, plus the following month.
Yes.
Because insurance is always paid up front. So to use an example, you add your laptop to your insurance policy on the 15th of a month. The premium for your laptop is 100 Rand, just to keep things easy.
Yeah.
So you would now have to pay at the end of the month an additional 50 Rand for the cover you had for the last portion of the month, plus the new 100 Rand premium. So in total, at the end of the month, your premium would have increased by 150 Rand.
For that month.
For that specific month. Next month, assuming no other changes were made to your policy, the premium would then be 50 Rand cheaper because the pro rata premium is no longer applicable. You already paid for it. And we get a lot of people phoning in being unhappy because they don't understand why the premium is now all of a sudden so much more expensive.
Yeah.
So understand the concept of adding an item and then having a pro rata premium to pay.
Yeah.
Because you had cover for a portion of the month.
So basically what you can look at is that whatever you're insuring is you insuring it day by day. You have a premium for every single day that item is insured, and if you have only a portion of the month, you'll pay a portion of that total premium.
Totally correct. When calculating a pro rata premium, what the insurance company does is it takes the premium, multiplies it by 12, and divides it by 365. The reason they do this is because not all months have 30 or 31 or 28 days.
Which is something we have discussed. Why do we not have 13 months?
So they then multiply that daily premium by the number of days left in the month in order to calculate the pro rata that you have to pay.
Yes.
But the converse is also true when removing an item from your policy. So, sticking with our laptop fee, you remove your laptop from your insurance policy on the 15th of the month. That means you no longer have to pay the 100 Rand at the end of the month. That was the original premium for your laptop. But also, by virtue of you removing it, you now no longer have cover for your laptop for the last portion of the month.
Yeah, so they basically owe you that 50%.
Correct. So the insurance company will then, at the end of the month, credit you or reduce your premium by the pro rata amount. And the month following that, you will then pay the new policy premium.
Yes.
So again, we get questions because you remove an item, your premium is cheaper, next month it's more expensive again. It is because of the pro rata that the insurance company owed back to you.
Yes.
Calculated exactly the same way.
Yeah. Okay, Japie, let's talk a little bit. So we've spoken about pro rata. What else do we need to know?
Let's have a quick look at those things we've been hinting at the whole show. The obscure type of cover. Things you did not know you're covered for. Under the household content section, there's a couple of things. We always jokingly refer to a hole-in-one type of cover, but that's a reality. Why does this type of cover exist? I don't play golf, but I understand from the people that when you do have a hole-in-one, you are obliged to buy drinks for everybody in the clubhouse. And that could work out to quite a bit of cash.
Yeah.
So you can claim this from your insurance company. Guys, don't think you can just walk around saying, oh, I hit a hole in one and they'll give you some money. There's a whole process to go through and it's verified and so on and so forth. So that is a process to get that claim paid out. But that's the one people are probably most familiar with.
Yeah, so I think that is a relic from the old boys clubs.
Correct.
Where these guys sat around, smoked cigars, drank afterwards, and then when somebody does hit a hole in one, it's all the boys that have to get a drink. So yeah, I think it's a relic because all of these, most of these insurance companies and the way insurance is structured was created by these old boys in old boys clubs. So
Correct.
They thought, let's help each other out with this one.
So let's look at some of the things that are a bit more relevant, which could really affect the general person out there. First off, alternative accommodation. When you suffer a loss, an insured event on your building, and your building is unfit to stay in, so there's a storm, the whole roof is blown off, the house burnt down, there's structural damage to the house because of an earthquake, something to that effect, then you can claim from your insurance company for alternative accommodation for a maximum period, usually, please guys refer to your policy wording, of up to 30 days. So the insurance company will pay for you to go and stay in a guest house or to rent alternative accommodation while they are busy repairing.
Yeah.
Remember, it has to be an insured event, and the insurance company needs to have accepted the claim. In principle.
Yeah.
So they will not just pay out, or they will not just pay out for accommodation while they are still in the process of processing the claim. Once the claim has been finalized and repairs are now commencing, then you will have cover for it.
What happens in a total loss, like the house burns down? You're talking about months where that house has to be rebuilt and everything. How does that work? Is it a question of, okay, they'll cover for 30 days, then you'll have to get rental accommodation for yourself, and would you then be liable at the bank to still pay your bond and your rental?
It depends on how quickly the claim is finalized. So yes, in the event of a total loss, the house is burned down, it's ashes and cinders on the ground, the insurance company will still only cover you for the maximum period of alternative accommodation.
Yeah.
But by virtue of them having approved the claim, that would mean, again, if you have a bond, the claim would first be paid to the bond holder, to the bank or the institution that financed your property. So you would no longer be liable for the bond because the bond has been paid, was in the process of being settled.
Okay.
You had to pay an installment on your bond on a monthly basis. You no longer have to pay that, so now you're going to be paying rental, which technically puts you in the same position you were before the loss.
But that would mean you would then have to qualify at the bank for a building loan to get it rebuilt, because chances are that if the property, the bond is settled, there won't be enough money to build a new property, so you'll have to take a building loan to build the property.
Yes, but also differentiate between damage and a total loss. When looking at insurance terms, a total loss means something is gone. It cannot be repaired at all. So in the event of massive flooding, for instance, not only the house but the property itself would damage to such an extent that it cannot be repaired. So you cannot rebuild your house there. Anything less than that would be considered damage, not a total loss. I know I'm being technical, guys, but we have to differentiate between these things. Would be deemed damage. So in that instance, yes, you will still need to pay your bond because the outstanding amount at the bank has not been settled. The insurance company will then rebuild the house for you.
Yeah, that's actually a risk that people have to take into account, because if something like that happens, it could financially be quite a big impact on your cash flow.
It would.
All right. Okay. Yes. What else?
Security guards. When again there's an insured event at your building, especially a robbery or storm or hail damage, and now we're in a situation where the house is a security risk. So they broke into your house, cut burglar bars, ripped out the front door, all of those things. You can claim from your insurance company for emergency guards, and they will provide guards for you to come and guard the house while they are in the process of repairing it.
Yeah.
It differs slightly from the concept of alternative accommodation in the form of the insurance company does not have to approve the claim first. There just has to be damage.
Okay.
Because it's a security risk. The insurance company can arrange for the guards.
Yes. Okay.
So very, very important to remember that part. The insurance company usually makes, if you do have a linked alarm, they will make use of that company. If you do not, then they will provide guards from a security company.
Okay.
Last one, when it gets to buildings and household contents, would be a rather strange one, but we do stay in Africa. Damage by wild animals.
Okay. Yeah, it's all the elephants roaming our streets, and the cheetahs and the rhinos. Yeah, okay.
Remember, wild animals would be baboons as well, especially if you have a thatched roof and you're staying in the Eastern Transvaal, for instance, where there are a lot of baboons running
Eastern
around.
Transvaal. Yopi, now you're giving your age away.
Oh, yes.
Goodness gracious me.
Mpumalanga. But remember, guys, and the reason I'm pointing this out for you is it has to be wild animals. So if your building or household contents are damaged by wild animals, it's covered. But if your domestic dog chews up your couch, not covered.
Oh my goodness.
If your dog digs holes and a portion of the wall collapses because you never filled in the hole,
on the dog. Yeah.
that is not covered.
Okay.
Because it's a domestic animal. So that's why I'm pointing out the concept of wild animals.
Okay.
Also, not covered, vermin. So if you have termites, not covered.
Okay.
Damage to electricity or water connections because of rats or all of those things, not covered.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting one.
Because of duty of care. You need to take some responsibility for yourself to prevent a loss to the best of your ability.
Yeah.
That ties in with a lot of times people suffer water damage after a rainstorm. And when the assessor comes out to your property, the first thing he's going to do is check your gutters. If the gutters are clogged, has been cleaned, then the insurance company can repudiate your claim because you did not come to the party and maintain the property properly.
Yeah. Same with roof damage. Like if you have a whole bunch of broken tiles and everything, and it was never replaced, never repaired, and then you have water damage, chances are they're going to say, well, you didn't take care of the roof.
Correct.
There's not proper maintenance done.
Correct. So, guys, please make certain gutters are clean, make certain roof tiles are replaced. there's no leaks happening which you are aware of. Because it will influence a claim, and it leaves us with a lot of unhappy clients.
Okay, there's another thing about alternative accommodation that I think we need to mention, and you can give me a little bit more detail on that, is if you are on holiday in hot as hell and you get into a car accident and your car can be driven back, how do you claim from your short-term insurance on that? Firstly, obviously the car will have to come back, whatever the case may be, but what about your accommodation, your transport, those kind of things?
That was the next point I was working towards. But yes, Lawrence, you're totally correct. If you are on holiday or you are traveling, not necessarily on holiday, and you are further than, usually, again, just check your policy wording, 50 kilometers from your house, and you suffer a insured event. So you're in an accident or something to that effect, the insurance company will pay for overnight accommodation to help you to make certain you can get everything arranged, and your vehicle will then be sent back to the closest panel beater to your house to be repaired. You of course then have to arrange your own transport. Unfortunately, that is not covered.
Okay.
But it also happens a lot of times that it's more economical to repair your vehicle at the premises or in the town where it was damaged. In that instance, there's another type of cover that kicks in, where the vehicle will then be repaired, and the insurance company will then cover the transport costs of the vehicle being delivered back to you.
Okay.
So yes, you do have cover for overnight accommodation. Again, check policy wording. Some of the bigger insurance companies would even provide overnight accommodation in the event of mechanical breakdown, which is not an insured event. We haven't spoken about that, but guys, remember, if your vehicle just stops driving, it is not an insured event. You do not have cover under your short-term insurance cover.
A lot of companies, and again the bigger ones, do have roadside assistance and those kind of things. And that's also something that I think people need to find out. Do I have it? And who do I call when I have something like this? And what does my roadside assistance offer me? It's always a good thing to have. And a lot of people have it and they just don't know. So they break down, and then they phone their uncle that stays 400 kilometers away, and he has to drive all the way there to try and help them.
Lawrence, it all boils down to understanding what you're insured for and knowing what questions to ask. That's what, again, makes going through a direct insurer very, very, very difficult, because they will send you the insurance contract as well as the policy wording, and trust me, a policy wording, it's not the most fun reading you can have.
It's not recreational reading you do when you sit next to the swimming pool with a cocktail in your hand.
For most people, yes, correct. So going through a financial advisor or through a broker, that person will be able to assist you. And that person will also serve as your first port of call. They will know if you have roadside assistance. They will know to help you arrange overnight accommodation. They will know to help you arrange security guards and all of these extra type of things we've spoken about. Contact your financial advisor. Have them assist you.
Yes.
If you do not have a financial advisor, make certain you sit down and you read through your policy contract and understand what you have and what you don't have.
Yes.
The problem with these things is, even if you read through your policy wording, going through a claim event is traumatic. If it can be something as small as your laptop being stolen to something as big as your house burning down. And people do not stop and go back and read and consult their policy wording again. They just, let me claim this very quickly. And they miss out on things that could make their life easier. Guys, remember, anytime things are included, all of these additional types of covers we mentioned very quickly, you're paying for this. It's included in your premium. It's not something you can remove from the policy, so you can't phone up the insurance company and say, I no longer want this. It's automatically included, but it is included when calculating the premium. So make certain you understand what you can claim for. There's a lot of things you can claim for, which makes your life much, much easier.
Okay, guys, Yobi, thank you. This was a marathon session for about 6 weeks. It was really great chatting with you, going through short-term insurance. Guys, you're welcome to go and watch all of these videos on YouTube again. If you want to go back to one of the previous shows, like I said, go search for raw snippets, and there will be the shorter portions of the show broken down if you're looking for one specific part of what we discussed. We will definitely have you back for another discussion, something else. We're not going to do short term again. We will still see. Guys, thank you for joining us. It is 11 o'clock, and have a great weekend. There's no rugby this weekend except URC, which we don't even talk about. It is not happening, but no Springbok rugby this weekend. So have a great weekend, and I'll chat to all of you again next week, Thursday, same time, same place. Cheers, everyone. Hi guys, Lawrence here. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you found it informative and you got some benefit out of it. Please add in the comments any questions you might have or any other topics that you would like me to talk about. Please subscribe to our channel, hit the bell button so that you can get notified of any new videos that we post so you don't miss anything. Thanks guys, see you around.